about, or what would you want to talk about?
We'll just start here. So we're live here. I figured you're Ashby Miller. If you'd like to introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself, please.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ashby Miller with Ashby Farms out of Burlington, North Carolina, which is the central Piedmont. And we run about 300 hives this season for production for honey. And we also do nuke sales. And next year we're getting into queen sales. So growing operation.
So you kind of knocked out my first question for you. So you just don't have enough queens to sell this year?
We started a breeding program this season. It'll take about 5 years to perfect. We're going to try and breed our own VSH line. And so I did a lot of research and knocking on doors over winter to find out. I've kind of got an island, meaning like an area where there's not a lot of hobbyist beekeepers.
Yeah.
So you need about 150 colonies in order to really have enough drones in the area to make good queens. So
yeah.
And then of course, if you're going to run a queen rearing operation, you have to have the time to go find that many queens.
Yep.
So this year I'm still at my day job. So we don't have the time to do all that. So we're just focusing on honey and nuke sales this year. And then next year I have plans. I'll probably go out on my own and we'll do commercial queen rearing at that point.
Do you have any idea how many you'd like to sell next year, ideally?
Yeah, we're gonna start about 4,000 sales. Sales with a goal to maybe get 70% and sell about 2,800, give or take.
Do you think that the drone yards will up your percentage over 70, or are you just rounding down so you're safe where you want to be?
Yeah, always safe. Nothing's guaranteed, so I mean, if we sell 2,000 queens, I'll be happy with that. But obviously, anything above that would be icing on the cake. It's really about. I recognized early on in beekeeping that there is a lack of transparency, and there's a lack of. There's a lot of people selling bee-related products that aren't actual beekeepers.
Yeah.
And and hey, I can't blame them. This is America. Good for them. They found something to sell. But yeah. I personally want to put my stamp on the world as being very transparent in my operation. YouTube obviously opens up a lot of.
For sure.
It shows people that hey, we really are out here managing this. My wife and I, and I think there's a lot of queens for sale every year. But quality queens should last multiple years. If you follow Ian Stepler, talk with Michael Palmer about this.
Yeah.
Anybody in the queen rearing world would advise the same thing. So I'm all about let's not only make quality queens, but then let's strive to make a better bee. Nobody's made a better bee in 30 years.
Yeah.
It is likely I will fail. I don't mind saying that up front, but yeah. I'm gonna stick my neck out there and say we're gonna do everything we can to breed a better bee, more varroa resistance.
Yeah.
Kind of followed Corey Stevens' work, doing Harbo tests, but of course that's very time consuming. So we're gonna be doing
it's not too bad.
20 minutes.
Yeah,
you can do a test in 20 minutes, but still, if you're trying to do 50 colonies, that's a lot of time. I don't have.
Well, I didn't expect that you were going to test that many, but
yeah. So we do a selection process that's pretty rigorous as far as we're still in expansion mode for our own operation, but I select on how they come out of winter, meaning. Mm-hmm. I want a bee that's Italian in race. That's what we breed. We get a touch of Carniolan, but it's mainly Italian.
Yeah.
But we're looking for a bee that is gentle on stores. I don't want a bee that's starving or a queen or a colony, I should say, that's starving in February. I like to find the kind of conservative. They've got to be gentle, and really you have to pick one. You can't have all the traits. So, so we're going to start selecting for. So far, I've been looking at who can rebuild twice. So we take our first splits, like March. We watch the build up through February. We take splits in early March, and then we watch who builds back up again. And so slowly we're eliminating, like, how'd they overwinter, how'd they build up the first time, how'd they build up the second time. That right there is streamlines, and it kind of does all your work for you. And then from there we're going to do the UBO test, which is unhealthy brood odor. We're going to be doing that in about 2 weeks, and going through and testing, which is going to, I don't know. I think there's really something to this. There's a lot of skepticism, but I can't say I blame people. Like, for 30 years, we haven't been able to come up with a process that really works.
Yeah. I did do a chat with Corey, so we talked all about that. And it's a very interesting thing. I'm definitely interested in for 2024. And when you're talking about breeding queens, I'm curious to know. So you said you want them to be more conservative, but you want them to build up early in the spring. So ideally you want both, but if you had to lean, which trait would you be more interested in?
Well, it really depends on what's your business model like. So if you don't have intentions of feeding bees and budget for that, some folks, they leave a lot of honey. As you mentioned, you do. Then I would lean more on, like, well, if I don't want to spend money on sugar, then I want them to be conservative. If your goal is, hey, I want to make nukes to sell, which we do quite a bit, I don't mind feeding. Feeding's just an expense. And so I would rather see them build up and rebound faster. And the problem kind of through my outfit, as you and I were talking about before the show, is you can do everything right. And we've probably seen in the last week 60, like 20% of my operation has swarmed. And we are going on 12 days into the nectar flow. Historically, when the bees decide the nectar flow is hit, the swarming stops. It's Mother Nature for you. There's nothing you can do about it. You can do everything right in farming. I've had 2 years with tomatoes that I completely lost the tomatoes for the season. Missed 2 of the last 7 years because of weather. There are things out of my control, and that's farming. It happens. So
So do you have undrawn honey supers on the hives? Is that, even if you do everything right, if you don't have drawn comb on top, that might be part of it, right?
Yeah. So we, because I don't have the years of experience nor the gear, so we're drawing out foundation by feeding sugar early on, and then we break them down, some of them a second time, like March 26th, and then they've got a month to rebuild. So within 2 weeks, they fill out a single again, and then we pull up a frame of eggs to the second box. And I like eggs because that's 3 weeks that the nurse bees have to go up into the second box to tend to that brood, and that causes them to get into the second box and expand. And so now we're looking at, golly, these hives that are swarming, they're averaging like 11, 12 frames of brood out of 18 frames available. They're rebuilding faster than I expected. So I was hoping that the honey flow would hit and the swarm would stop, but that's beekeeping for you.
Hard to know, it's just, you never know. It's bees. Here's a question from Edward. How long should a good queen last? Why do a lot of folks place queens every year or every other year? I think he's commenting about you saying they should last for a few years about 10 minutes ago.
That's a great question. So a lot of the research done by Brother Adam showed that the vigor of a new queen um, really can't be matched or beat.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I kind of follow Ian Stepler's model, which is I'm making currently I'm making one frame splits,
Wow.
two frame splits, depending on like if I get into a hive and I see queen cells that are late stage queen cells about to hatch.
Yep.
We're making a lot of week splits because it's early enough in the year, with the goal that this is going to only be four frame. It's a 5 frame box. It's got a 1 gallon mother load feeder and 4 frames of bees. And then my only goal is to get that through winter. And what that does is creates like I guess you'd call it a reserve or a battery bank of nukes. So we'll take our winter losses as best we can in the fall, and then we'll watch the bees in this early spring and see who's not cutting it. And if it's not cutting it, then we go to our nuke yard and we kill that queen and plug in one of the nukes, and boom,
Yeah.
and so we're constantly reviving our operation. Matter of fact, I found a blue dot queen. Yes, no, I'm sorry, 2 days, 3 days ago. My days are running together. But earlier this week, I found one of my 2020 blue dot queens. She's still laying beautifully. I don't have a reason to kill her. I talked with Michael Palmer, and he keeps these records that are just meticulous.
Yeah.
He had a hive that got a new queen in, I think he said it was 2002. That queen lasted 7 years. He requeened it in 2009. That queen lasted 6 years. He requeened it in 2015. Think about that.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a matter of, does the queen have enough semen to last that long? That's ultimately what it comes down to. There's a lot of argument in the breeding world about how does a queen know? How does a virgin queen on a virgin flight know it's time to go home?
Yeah.
And the speculation is that she feels full, meaning she's bred enough.
Yeah.
But if she's this slow flying queen in the right time of year in a drone congregation area, that's a DCA,
Yeah.
then she's flying through this DCA. Every drone in the world is going to be trying to mate with her.
Yeah.
I was watching an interview with Keith Delaplane and Bob Benny, and they talked about at NC State that Dr. Tarpey, 71. They documented
70.
a queen, 71 like queens. That's so that makes me think. Okay, even though we don't test for that, that likely does not occur in Mother Nature. It only occurs in a queen rearing operation where you just got so many drones in the area. But what kind of queen does that produce? Well, if you've got all the same genetics, it's almost like you could have done artificial insemination. So Michael Palmer and I, I had a long talk with Sebastian Polanski. We were on a talk with him, and I agree. Everything I've read, and I feel like he said this is his 50th year beekeeping. I'm going to defer to experience, and he agrees that this is my thoughts and this is his thoughts, which was genetic diversity is more important than the queen stock when it comes to exhibiting traits of VSH. So imagine this, like, it's long and short of that is it's more important to have many different familial lines. The hive tends to be more hygienic overall, and especially towards Varroa. And that was recently supported as well in that same talk that Bob Benny and Keith Delaplane did. That more important than having the right queen mother would be the genetic diversity. So again, in our operation, it's just a matter of if you build it, they will come. Like, not every queen's going to be great. Some queens are going to be awesome. Can't really control, open mating, but for us, we have there's 147 hives in our queen mating area, and I have 120 of them. And then one of the guys I've got to know him, he has 14 of those. So the two of us control the majority of the genetics in this area, and he's on board with what I'm doing. Great guy. Be inclusive to your neighbors. And I included him. I said, hey, I'm trying to do this. It's a 5-year plan. Will you help me out with this? And he was just super on board. So I want to make my name on breeding really quality queens that, if you so choose, they'll last multiple years. Not everybody beekeeps the same way,
Yeah, I requeen every year, but when you make queens for pennies on the dollar, it's a lot different than buying them.
Certainly. Certainly. Yeah.
So with the drone flooding yards, can you detail how far they are from your main mating yard? And do you have multiple mating yards? I'm curious.
We will at the end of this season. We'll have a second mating yard. So picture, best way I know to describe this is picture a pentagon. We've got it's 2 miles across, and at the 5 points there's 20 hives, and then right in the middle there's 20 cell builders, and the convenience there is, like, I don't have an incubator, so we can we can graft and put our cells in the cell builders in the central yard. We can go to our other yards and take our splits, bring them back, and then just time. It's all about timing, but I can go in on like day 7 and pull a cell, or day 8 if it's weather depending, or day 9, and we can pull the cells right there and put them right into the nukes and let them hatch. I put them in a cell protector, and then let the queen emerge and go on her mating flight there, and everything's kind of already set up, and then we can go back a few weeks later and verify got a good mated queen, and then we move those nukes at night to establish our new yards.
So a couple questions. First, I know that queen cells, I don't know what day it is exactly, it might be 10 or 11. Like, if you move them, it can damage their wings. Is that not an issue for you because you only have to move them a few feet rather than in an incubator?
Exactly. So if I was going to use an incubator, most everybody's gone to the hair rollers. Let them emerge in a hair roller, and then do the hopelessly queenless method. Make your split hopelessly queenless, and then give them a virgin.
A lot of labor,
a lot of labor. So, excuse me. For us, I don't have that time, so it's easier for me to just walk over, pull a frame, pull a frame of cells, brush off the bees. We go right over, and my wife and I, and normally I'll pull. She'll be pulling the cells off, and puts them into the frame right on the edge of the brood, and then I'll put the hive back together, and we just bounce right down the line. And so is this question how to use drone flooding yards? Is that a somebody watching asking?
No, those are my questions.
Okay.
I load up. Okay. So you drop them right in. A lot of people use incubators the other way. I have heard exactly what you're talking about. Corey does that, but like Ian, for example, he might switch to Corey's method, but what he's currently been doing is he pulls them when they're capped on day 8, and then puts them in the incubator and leaves them, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 days. So he says he transfers them hot, meaning like they're going to hatch that day. And he says that he finds that the queens more of them survive the installation because they're a little bit older. So that's what he suggested to me, because I was having trouble getting queen cells accepted last year. So it is another method, but I'm going to do exactly what you're doing. I have, not as many yards, but I'm going to have 2 yards within about a mile of my mating yard, and then my 2 cell builders, and then all my 40 mating nukes right next to the cell builders. So Hopefully I can get some more queens back. We'll see how it goes.
It's I haven't noticed. Last year we ran a 71% take. Our first round we ran a 76% take this year, so we've seen a 5% increase. I'm always looking for what's that trick that's going to be 2% and 3% and 2%, because that adds up to 10% better, which in beekeeping is real dollar signs.
Yeah.
At a commercial scale. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm running a business. If I wanted to go broke, I'd stay home and hang out on the couch.
Yeah.
You know? But anybody who, if you think you're going to go into bees, I'm going to go into bees and make a lot of money without a passion to do it.
Yeah, that's not.
They're not around in 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's I eat, sleep, dream, talk about bees all the time. My heart is in it, you know. And my wife, she'll tell me, she'll say, "You got 5 more minutes, and then we got to talk about other things."
That's my mom. Yeah. It's like, that's enough the information for the entire, year at this point already.
Yeah. It's funny. I still laugh at myself. I have these aha moments all the time, where it's kind of like, duh. Once you find it out, like for instance, this year I spaced my nuke mating yard across this huge field.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to go sell nukes, and I'm putting 50 in my pickup truck at a time. That's a ton of walking to each individual one across. That was a dumb thing to do. So now I learned to put like 6 to 8 in a circle, a little bit bigger than a pallet, and then that way, if you pull the truck like down, imagine like down a lane, you've got a circle and a circle, and you move the truck a little more, and a circle and a circle, and that fills up the truck.
Yeah.
So like once you've walked back and forth for a couple hundred nukes twice, once putting them out, the second time picking them up, aha moment is, hey, clump them together so you don't have so far to walk.
How far were you spacing them?
Like 6, 7, 8 feet.
Wow. Okay, that'd be
It took me like an hour and a half to fill up the truck one night. And I'm walking in I bush hogged it right before we put them down, but now that grass is like knee high. So it was not a good move on Ashby's part. Now I understand why people palletize, where they run like a standard, like a Walmart pallet fits 10 nukes to it. They'll have different colors, and then they forklift them. Like eventually, I want to get a skid steer where you can just pick up, pallets of nukes. That's the way to do it. But when you're small, like I'm still very small in comparison with other people. People I follow have hives in the 3 to 10,000 range.
Yeah.
And I'm learning just where is that little bit of efficiency that makes a big difference at the end of the year.
Yeah. It's interesting because you said 76%, because Bob said, it makes me wonder if it's something with your weather, because Bob said that typical is 75 to 80 without drone flooding yards. And with drone flooding yards, he gets like 85. And he knows other commercial beekeepers that you put a lot more hives in their drone flooding yards and get like 90 or 95%, something like that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's just your climate partly.
It certainly was. So we grafted May 8th. The queens hatched or emerged on, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We grafted March 8th, and they emerged 10 days later, March 18th. And we had a cold snap till March 23rd. So the virgins had to stay in the hives for like 5 or 6 days before they were able to get out. And at that time of year, we only had like 3 hours of flight time late in the day for like the 24th, 25th, 26th. So it's not, I just recently did a video about why you should wait until May. And that's for us. So like we're going to be doing our splits basically 2 weeks from now. Because the drone, if you consider if peak drone numbers 100%, is mid-May, then you probably only have 30 or 40% of the amount of drones present before April 1st in our climate. And then on top of that, our flight time in mid-May is 10 hours a day. The flight time in late March is 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you're trying to breed really, really great queens, which I am, I tell everybody I was about 2 weeks later than my competition. And in North Carolina, we have a lot of there's a lot of producers like us, and there's a lot of people that go to Georgia and Florida and pick up nukes. And when you look at my competition showing up 2 weeks earlier than us, I tell my customers I don't mind being 2 weeks later. It's drastically important to that queen being well mated to wait that 2 extra weeks. And even though the demand says, hey, the customer, like Bob said, the customer demands earlier and earlier and earlier every year. At some point, there's real consequences for that, which is supersedure of the queen, and the customer pays all this money and they don't understand the genetics, and they can't figure out why their hives are superseding within 3 months of getting them. The bees know it's a poorly mated queen. It was done too early. So to me, it's a disservice to the customer to be the first to market. I just won't do it. And I explain to all my customers, hey, my competition can have you 2 weeks earlier if you don't mind waiting. I believe I'm bringing a better bee. And here's why. And when you educate the public about these things, it makes them feel good about doing business with you, And it just comes back to that whole transparency thing. I don't mind if a customer is unwilling to wait, that's okay. We won't have a shortage of customers. I think as people like Bob Benny and Ian Stepler really continue to do good at educating beekeepers, the beekeepers are going to start to demand, hey, I'm not in such a hurry for these early queens. I don't want the problems associated with that. I'd rather wait 2, 3, 4 weeks. So, but that's my opinion. I don't come with 50 years of experience.
Yeah. Give it 45 years roughly, and then you'll be there.
Pretty much. Right. And then I can have an opinion like Michael Palmer.
Yeah. It's I would guess it's pretty similar to package queens. Like Cayman says, about 20% of package queens just kick the bucket in the first month or so. And I would guess your early nukes are probably pretty similar. Like for me, I'm not selling nukes yet, but I will next year. And most people are selling nukes in May, but mine aren't going to be ready till probably mid to late June. But and that would be the equivalent of your mid-May, because that's probably our peak drone population. Like our flow cuts off like first week of July. So my guess is our peak drones would be late June.
Yeah. And so we have a big dearth here, a period of no food at all for about 10 weeks. From mid June till almost Labor Day, September 1st. So last year I learned a really tough lesson. I made some splits in July, and I'm now reaping the negative benefits, consequences, I guess you'd say, of that. Of those. That 1 yard all came from July splits. I think I've killed like 12 of 32 queens.
Wow.
And when I do talks at bee clubs in our area, I always like to ask people, and I'm asking anybody watching this, how willing would you walk into your yard today and kill every queen you've got? I'm willing to, because I not only know the concepts of how to make good queens and get them to requeen, but I know my stock and where it came from and how to redo that. If the backyard beekeeper with 2, 3, 4 hives is not willing to kill their queen because it's a poor performer, it's going to be a costly mistake. I have zero zero room in my operation for poor performers. If we come across it, it's an instantaneous decision. We
Yeah.
do not throw any more dollars. Operations costs on a hive per year is probably $75 a hive. I don't know, give or take. Um, if you factor in the labor plus hive treatments, gas to and from, and sugar, it's probably $75 a hive. So I'm not going to spend another dollar on this hive, and it's just a business decision. It's that easy.
Yeah. When you say underperformer, do you mean starting to go into drones, just not building up fast? Like, what are your personal standards for that?
Yeah. So laggards as far as building up fast.
Yeah.
That's certainly a reason. If they're spicy at all while I'm there,
Yeah.
the queen's got to go. We have no room
Yeah.
in our operation for that. If it's got a shotgun brood pattern, and and I apologize again, I'm fighting a head cold, but if it's a newer queen and she's got a shotgun brood pattern, then she might be getting her sea legs. If we've got a hive with a high mite load and we have really good VSH, tendencies. Well, I just watched a video the other day that Nathan with Duck River Honey did at Corey Stevens, and in the videos, it was part one of those two clips. It's towards the end of the video, and Corey shows that it was a great example. It was late staged capped brood where the bees had uncovered, they had chewed off the cappings, checked the larva, and decided everything was okay and recapped it. And while I know what that looks like, John Q. Public does not. So what an educational opportunity to show people. If I see a case where the bees are just doing good Varroa hygienics, there's no need to requeen it, but that could easily be mistaken. So when you're basing killing your queen on out of a shotgun pattern, shotgun patterns mean there's a lot of holes in it, and it's typical of either a poorly mated queen or a queen that's running out of semen and she's starting to be a drone layer. I mean, any number of factors there. So particularly in the spring, which is the opportune time to make queens, if she's underperforming in the best time of the year, right? I mean, spring is just right now for us. If she's not doing good now, she's not going to do good the rest of the season. So take the opportunity during the best time of the year to go ahead and requeen. You don't, I would advise anybody small, which is I'd say less than 20 hives, do a walk-away split. Do a couple walk-away splits. Do a week walk-away split, like a 2 or 3 frame, and do multiples. And that way, if let's say you've got a strong colony and you take 2-week splits out of it, only one queen comes back successful. Then you can take the queen-less hive and combine it with the new split. That works. Or you can recombine it with the parent hive. But the whole goal there is let's correct this queen issue when we see it. Let's not kick it down the road. Let's not create a chance for a drone laying worker or small hive beetles to come take over or wax moth. We don't have the opportunity or the time in our operation for that. It has to go and it has to be solved right then.
Yep. Question here from Triton. Ashby, what do you think of Cara charging $20 per dose for UBO? It'll be a heavy price to find 1 to 2% of VSH traits in your yards. Are you getting it for free? 150 colonies will cost you $3,000.
We're testing. Well, I don't. I'll tell you this. I would love to pay $20 a dose. We're paying We are paying significantly more than that to test 50 colonies. I'm not sure if they want me telling exactly how much we're paying, but what I could say is I would love to see $20 per dose. I think that you have to pay to play, and I think the thing about UBO is while it's the hot cutting edge thing, it's like the 10th hot cutting edge thing in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Nothing so far past the Harbo test has been really accurate and had good results. Remember that let's say that the trait that we're looking for, the easiest way I know to put this is like redheads in human beings, right? The trouble is finding a great grandmother, a mother, a daughter, or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It'd be the queen mother, the daughter, the granddaughter, the great granddaughter, to all exhibit the same redheaded trait, right? VSH, the problem is you can't really get over that 12% hump. That's what nobody's been able to break. You can write your own check. I mean, it's an open checkbook to the person who finds that, how to do that. It's Mother Nature does not like too much of one thing, a good thing or a bad thing. So everyone that's tried to get over this hump. So that's what, both Corey Stevens and I were in this breeding program that we're starting this year. I say it's going to take 5 years for us to really scientifically measure, data track, follow queens, where we can consistently say we expect, call it 75%, where I can say that 75% of the offspring are going to continue to exhibit this trait, and so on and so forth down the line. I don't mind telling people I'm trying, and it's likely that I will fail. But if we sit here and we do nothing, we're going to be in the same spot 30 more years from now. I'll be an old man. I'm getting ready to, I'm 38. I'll literally be, in the same spot, and nothing will have changed. So someone's got to try. It's not up to universities. Without getting too political, universities tend to be too dependent on other people's money, and in general, universities tend to be about 10 years behind the people really on the cutting edge. The cutting edge is found by people who risk their own name, finances. A good way to put it is my money's where my mouth is.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way.
He's asking so you think it's better to buy, or why would you choose to do UBO over VSH inseminated queens?
That's right. So currently it's estimated that there's less than 400 genetic lines left in North America. And it's getting smaller and smaller. It's not getting bigger and bigger. So if you follow any of the research through the 90s on the midnight lines or the starlight lines, what they did was when you look on a cellular level at like the gametes, they inbred these bees to a point, and you can do this with corn or tomatoes on a genetic level where it's the same, like the chromosomal level, same, and it creates these awful results. And when you then combine males from one hive bred like that with female genetic from another side, what you get is different. You're creating a hybrid, and then you get these unreal queens. But the problem is that's only passed along to maybe 20% of the daughters. And then again, you're almost always under 8% of the granddaughters. And it's just the further away from that queen mother you get, the less of those traits are then expressed. So while you can buy artificially inseminated queens for cheaper, I would agree. In my case, we're trying to open breed our own line. That not only that, but like I want to get to a point where people like Corey and Bob and Bruce and Ian and I, we're swapping. I currently do a queen swap with guys within North Carolina. So I take 10 of my best, and I will trade 2 queens for 2 of your best. So let's say, Renier, I'm going to let you make the call with your experience based on 2 of your best queens, whatever that looks like. I don't want 2 of your generics. I want 2 of your best. You're going to get 2 of mine. Imagine just in North Carolina going 100 miles either direction. We're getting into different genetic lines. The more genetic diversity that we remember, genetic diversity is more important than the queen mother. So while we could buy a VSH artificially inseminated queen, it is more important, and research right now shows it's more important if you want to see VSH in your bees. Genetic diversity is more important than the queen mother. So that's why we're trying to build our own. That's why and how we're doing it.
Okay. Here's one more question. Do you expect to only find VSH traits in your 50 colonies? Corey commented that it's only about 1 to 2%.
No. So last year, Kara's business partner Phoebe is one of my best friends in the bee world, and so golly, Phoebe really helped me kind of get up to speed. And so when Kara and Phoebe went down east, they bought some of their test stock with their grant money last year from a gentleman. And right then and there, they tested his stock. There was out of the 20 colonies that they tested, so I've seen his results, the results of that whole test. The number 19, the second from the bottom, being the poorest performer, was actually a VSH queen artificially inseminated by Dr. Tarpey at NC State. 6 of the 20 made above the 60% grade. Now, of course, he didn't get to keep those because Kara and Phoebe were buying those bees from him. Michael Palmer was part of the field trial a few years ago, and he had a 25% of all the bees tested scored at least a 60 or above. 60 is the scoring threshold you want to see. Obviously,
is 60 a 2 or
no, it's scored differently.
Differently than Harbo?
Yeah, and so we're looking for a minimum score of 60. I'll be having a video up, probably a multiple part series about it when we test. And so, but basically, 60 is the level you're looking for. About 25% of those tested in both trials exhibited that. Obviously, we'd like to graft from the higher scorers.
As long as they're
without,
yeah.
So, but we're gonna test, 50 with us, and I don't know about. I know that there's only a handful of commercial folks in the U.S. doing tests this year with Kara and Phoebe, and that's. I don't want to spoil their news.
Why don't they have the YouTube channel? That's the real question, Ashby.
They're both busy. I think Phoebe has started her own program this year from some of my stock, and she's had a few colonies of her own. I'm not sure what it's Kara. I understand Kara's expecting. That obviously bringing a kid to the world takes a lot of your time. I've got I've got kids myself. So their big thing right now is just getting the word out, and really more than getting the word out will be, does it work on a large scale? There's so many skeptics out there because people have put their money for decades behind other things that turned out not to work. People get burned and they go, I'm just gonna stick with what's working. I encourage my kids to fail constantly. I love failing. Failing's how we learn. So I don't mind saying I'm gonna step out on a limb and say I'm gonna breed a better bee, and it might take me a lifetime. But again, I'm not afraid to fail. I don't mind recognizing out of the gate that. But let's say we don't reach let's say we don't reach our goals at the levels that we want, at the end of the day, do you think the bees we're breeding is still better than some of this generic stock where you've got
Yeah.
10, we're getting less and less genetic diversity? I think breeding a better bee, even though it may not, my target is to get a VSH
Yeah.
line of bees and we still fail. Are we still breeding good bees? Heck yeah, we are. We're flooding basically an area. It's 9 square miles. It's 3 miles by 3 miles. We've got 150 colonies in that. If you figure there's at any given time an average of 250, let's say there's 250 drones in a colony at any given time this time of year, then 150 colonies, that'd be close to 40,000 drones.
Yeah.
Are we breeding a better bee as long as we have a lot of genetics? Heck yeah, we're breeding a better bee. Is it documentable on every single queen? No, it's Mother Nature. We're going to be glad if 70% of the bees exhibit the traits we're looking for. But slowly over time, year after year, it will make a difference. Michael Palmer is proof of that. He spent 50 years doing it. Golly, Ian's stock is phenomenal. Randy Oliver's a beekeeper. He's a biologist in college, but he spent his lifetime working on creating a better bee. And while he's given so much research and information to the world for free, he's still striving for the same things I'm striving for. So I think it really comes down to privately owned businesses, beekeepers who outwardly say, I want to do better. It is my goal, and I don't mind failing. And eventually, if enough people keep striving for that, somebody will break through.
Yeah. It's I'm trying to think. I had a few questions. Oh, with the queen swap. So when you say it's your best queens, I'm assuming these aren't young ones. These are probably in their second year, so they're more proven, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. That's exactly right.
That makes a lot of sense. And then what do you have an idea of your goals? So are you going to use you're going to use Harbo assays some as well as the UBO. Do you have a goal for your 5-year plan? Like 60% of your stock doing 70s in the UBO and 2s on the Harbo assay, or what, do you have an idea for what you hope to do?
Yeah. That's exactly right. I would like to see that by year 5, that no matter which test we do, that we see, I would say 50%. If 50, now I would even say less than that. If 25, hang on, let me think through this.
Yeah,
I would think if 50% of those, your queens need to be laying for about 6 weeks at least minimum to do a UBO test. I would say that if we could get 50%, that would be, what an achievement. I mean, nobody else is doing, nobody else can really sit down and very few of your large commercial outfits are taking the time to prove it.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit their business model. Most of your research is coming out of the universities where it's essentially college kids are your free labor for these hours and hours and hours and hours of research. So there's a handful of people, Corey Stevens came around. I mean, you kind of know who they are, who are saying, hey, I would like to put in the time and make the difference. And here's my stamp on the world. I think there's something to be championed about that. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah. I was thinking about treating, and you said that it's more profitable for large beekeeping operations to keep treating their bees rather than really focus on breeding a better bee. And I was also thinking about like the cost analysis between not treating and treating, because there's very few amount of commercial beekeepers are able to do that. But what I realized is the issue with that and why very few are able to pull it off is because whilst it may go really well for a few years, but you might have a really big loss in the future. And so the treatments keep it stable. It's a stable amount of loss. And then with treatment free, it would be, good, good, good. And then it just crashed at a certain point or a certain year. And so the reason why we use mite treatments is it creates consistent outcome rather than one that can be very varied year to year. Yeah.
Well, I think that I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, what I'm about to say. I think if you're breeding a VSHB, it would still be okay to treat them with, at minimum, oxalic acid.
Yeah.
Twice. Even today, oxalic acid is. Let's talk about OA real quick. I did a video on this. The proper time to use oxalic acid is, for us, after a 3-week cold snap, the first warm night that's at least 42 degrees. The reason being is the cluster breaks around 42, 43 degrees.
Yeah.
So for last year, that was like a December 4th treatment, and then it was warm after that, and then they reared a bunch of brood, and we didn't get our second treatment until January 26th. Whereas this past season, we only had one cold snap, so we hit them like January 4th, and then again like January 14th with OA. I think back to what I'm probably going to catch flack for is there's a lot of arguments out there and opinions about, is Amitraz, which is Apivar, is it or is it not failing? Why not breed a better bee in addition to still using Amitraz? Like to me, breeding a VSHB should be a tool in your arsenal. Yeah. Not the end all be all, but Corey Stevens is light years ahead of me in education.
Yeah.
I don't mind saying that he's far superior. It would be wonderful if we could get back to a point where we no longer need to treat bees.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a number of hobbyists. Man, there's a guy I talked to in Virginia. He's run 18 colonies since the year 2000, and he only loses 1 or 2 colonies a year. He doesn't treat at all. And I'm willing to pay for his stock. So I'd love to pay for 2 of your queens. I'll pay you for them. I would love to get those genetics in. I got a solid no. That's okay. There will be other people to come forward, but your commercial guys are the ones pumping out the nukes and the packages and the queens associated with that to supply the hobbyist market. And until we breed that better bee, VSH. One, treatments aren't going anywhere. We have to continue to treat. And 2, I think for us at least, I'm still going to treat in spite of VSH tendencies or not. I'm still going to use OA. I think, why not? It's a perfectly opportune time. There's no brood. Every mite is exposed. It works great. Oxalic acid is a great treatment. So.
Do you only treat once a year right now?
So we'll do 2 applications, but one just in the winter. Yeah.
Wow. I would say you probably already have some mite resistance to a certain extent, because most, like Cayman said, he treats 3 times a year. I don't know quite how your seasons match up, but I would guess you already have some mite resistance if you're able to get away with only 1 treatment during the winter time.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out on this one. I got my original stock from Honey Strong. That's Cameron Spath, Cameron and Riley Spath. They're out of Smyrna, South Carolina. Cameron's a good friend of mine now, and I think I hit the jackpot.
I think so too.
Phoebe and I looked at in 2021. We were looking at some of these bees and their hygienic behavior. It was apparent within 2 weeks, and it was apparent the next year. Same hives that they're exhibiting these hygienic behaviors. Whether or not that's toward Varroa, there's some argument there. But the point being is, good quality stock to start with is key. So in recognizing that, I have to give a shout out to where I got the majority of my stock from.
Yeah.
And not only that, he does a great continue to do a great job supporting. So let's see. Mary's asking, don't you have to have all your drones from VSH stock to get a multi-generational carry? So backyards can't control our mating. So you can control your mate. I encourage bee clubs, get together. Imagine this: if this is where get together in your bee club, let's say 5-6 people. Maybe a guy, his brother owns property here. You got to do some networking here, but I'm gonna try and shoot this right. But imagine if this is your nuke baited yard, then you've got to go put 2-3 hives here and 2-3 hives here and 2-3 hives here, all the way around, and then everybody in that bee club group gets to bring their bees, their nukes that they want to split here. So you're leveraging your resources and your who you knows in your own county, even though you might not be able to control all those genetics. Remember, you only need to move these bees in for, you could bring in
2 weeks,
the hives, 2-3, you could bring them in a week before, 2 days before your queens are expected to hatch. They could be there for 2-3 weeks and then move them. It's not hard to ask people, hey, can I put some bees on your property for 2-3 weeks and then I'll move them after that? You'd be surprised. I probably knocked on 100 doors wow. this winter. No kidding. And I would say, hey, have you lived here long? We've lived here 30 years. Do you know anybody else in this area who keeps bees? Yeah, it's Johnny down the road. His dad keeps 3, so go knock on Johnny down the road's door. Hey, does your dad still keep bees? He's like, nah, Dad died a couple years ago. We don't keep bees anymore. Okay, that's how I found out I'm in this island. It was I not only asked the landowners, but I asked, hey, do you know anybody within the immediate vicinity? Here's my plan. And everybody, I didn't meet one person who wasn't willing to help. Everybody was on board. I got yeses everywhere I went. It's nice to have, that's a very small community there where we do our breeding, but like everybody in the community now knows Ashby's driving the green truck around. He's trying to do this breeding program. He's probably going to fail, but let's help him out. I've just gotten so many blessings, and it's all God's blessings at the end of the day. I got to give it. I'm just the steward of his bees. Got to give him all the credit, but I've always said it's who you know, not what you know.
Yeah.
And the who you knows, man. For all the no's I've got so many yeses. And that's what I'm staking my name on.
Yeah, all the who you knows turn into a lot of what you know.
Sure does.
It's when we're talking about VSH, because like for me personally, like I like to do oxalic in October because that's around the time the bees go broodless for here.
Okay. Yeah.
For me, if I don't treat them sometime during the summer, pretty much a guaranteed death. I mean, my bees are making winter bees in probably like starting maybe in early August to till mid-October or late October. And so my virus loads have to be so low at that time to really get any bees through the winter. So I probably don't have a particularly resistant stock. Like I didn't luck out like you did and get that starter stock. But I have to get all my hives treated, assuming they're above threshold by, my goal is really mid-July, ideally. Yeah.
So David Bailey is a friend of mine. He runs Bailey's Bee Supply in Hillsboro.
Yeah.
He does quilt boxes, and his bees never go broodless. For us, golly, I checked on bees December 1st of 2022, and they've still got 2 and 3, sheets, small ovals of brood. At that time of year, we had such a warm winter, and then then the cold came. That's when everybody got that real cold snap. Down here, Bob Benny had like a -2 degree night. We had a 5 degree night. It's unheard of here.
Yeah.
that cold snap was really good that it turned the queens off.
Yeah.
I see people doing oxalic acid treatments in November here, and I'm like, what a waste of labor. It's just my opinion, but like when they've still got 3, 4, 5 sheets of brood, like it's ineffective. We have to get ahead of our mite loads, and so for us, we in my operation we put APOVAR strips in August 1st. We take them out September 15th. At that point in time, we can do mite washes to see was it effective. If it's not, we're getting cool enough weather then that we can use Formic Pro. It's still too warm in August into September. It just is. But I've got to be careful because, if Formic Pro can cause a queen to stop laying, and so at that point in time, you are making your winter bees. But really, eggs being laid for us September 15th, that bee probably won't make it past Thanksgiving. I mean, our bees are, those. We have such warm winters here, especially this past season, that like they only went 3 weeks of broodless. That's it. The queens rear all winter long, and that's why, golly, we put our bees. We're done feeding October 26th this year was our last feeding, and we don't get back into them again until Valentine's Day. So I need 4 months for the bees to make it. I don't open them. Nothing. So that's why we open up Valentine's Day and go, well, what if this is a great colony, but it's on the brink of starvation?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a costly beehive in my business, and especially if we start grafting off of that queen. I'm not trying to breed stock that just chews through sugar. I want them to make it and have the resources. Speaking of, that's another thing I want to talk about. I was recently talking at one of the county meetings about my equipment is poorly built because I don't think of myself as a great woodworker. I've got these gaps in my equipment from some dumb things I've done. I've discussed it in my YouTube stuff. These gaps create an opportunity for robbing during dearth, but it also makes the bees it puts them into, hey, learn to defend yourself mode. So I'm sure I have robbing. We see it, especially in late August, where like a colony that was there is now dead.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because I have cracks in almost every hive. It allows for extra ventilation. In the wintertime, we don't see any moisture buildup because there's enough ventilation to let the moisture out. And during robin season, it promotes the strong hives who kill off the weak hives. Yeah. To me, part of breeding a better bee, we're not breeding wussy bees. I want a street fighter. I want a MMA style bee who can, a colony that can hold their own. We're not breeding weak bees. That's part. So it's very ruthless. It's some people would even say it's a lack of animal husbandry. Maybe, but we're not backyard beekeepers. We're a commercial operation looking to breed a better bee. So
I'm interested to hear what you think. Do you think protecting from robbing would be a specific trait or just a benefit of its colony size? Because I would associate it mostly to colony size.
Yes, but in a commercial outfit, you probably see this. You try and keep all your hives the same.
Yeah.
So, if you're by the time dearth comes around, they've gone through the honey flow. Some queens did better than others. Some hives are more populated than others. But for the most part, if we get into July and that hive came out of the honey flow weak, call, time to go. Don't have room for it in the operation. And golly, I mean, that might be 10%.
Yeah.
That's steep. But, Ian Stepler does this same thing. If you watch enough of his content, you'll see it.
Yeah.
He comes across a problem, doesn't worry about it. He doesn't keep up with how many hives he's got. It's just, here's a problem. We're going to take care of it. It's gone. It's no longer a problem.
Yeah.
If you do that for enough years in a row, I mean, Ian's been at it for 20 years now. You get this fantastic line of bees. I think there's something to that. So this isn't, for me to say we're going to breed a better bee in 5 years, probably not going to happen. It'll probably take me a lifetime.
You're going to
But we're
attempt
going
to breed a bee in 5 years. Yeah.
Yep. And excuse me, my head stopped up. But yeah, if in 5 years we can get some really scientific, if the data set
Measurable data. Yeah.
is measurable data exactly, then I'll be very pleased. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to breed a better bee for me. I know this is selfish, but I'm the one with the huge financial investment, right?
Yeah.
I'm the one who took all the risk and all the long hours. So my
Find the
customers,
UVO test.
yeah, I mean, right. To some degree, I have to look out for my own operation before my customer. Now, the byproduct of this is creating great bees for our customers.
Yeah.
But in this sense, they have to come second. I have to, when you're running a breeding program, you have to look out for you first. And that's tough to say, but it's realistic. And all my customers who bought Nukes this year have called back very, very pleased.
Yeah.
I've been very happy with the pictures they've sent me and the reports, and it's kind of like, if you build it, they will come. I'm trying. My money's where my mouth is. Not everything's perfect, but we're doing pretty good. I'm very pleased with where we're at so far in the season.
Well, thanks for coming on tonight, Ashby. Where can people find you?
So Facebook is Ashby Farms NC. Same with YouTube, Ashby Farms NC. So 2 big platforms I use. I tell people I'm a normal guy. Give me a call. My number is pretty easy to find on Facebook, on the farm page. I like talking to people. I absolutely love talking to people. And I've always just had like a servant's attitude. How can I help? A lot of times, especially this time of year, we're busy. So I tell people, hey, if I can't help you, I can either give you a resource. I'll know a video link I can send you. Something like that. And I've just always been like willing to help others. And and I think that comes back in many other ways tenfold.
Well, thanks for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it, Ashby, and I love talking to you.
Dude, I've been watching your the other interviews I've watched all the interviews you've done, and I'm very, very impressed with you and this idea of picking people's brains. You're asking the right questions. I'm extremely excited to follow your future work, what you're doing, where you're going. If there's a way I can help, let me know.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, Ashby.
All right, you too. Thanks.